Welcome to church. We are so glad that you've joined us. Will you worship with us as we sing to the one who is worthy? Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. You're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. And Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. You're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. You're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, Jesus. And Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. You're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, and holy, there is no one like you. There is none besides you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me
Good morning, Willamette Christian Church. So glad that you could join us today. Whether you're watching this live with us or you're on demand later on in the week, I hope that you enjoy the service. You know, one thing that I want to encourage you to do is to not watch these alone. I know right now we're all longing for relationships with individuals, and so there's a way to safely invite neighbors or friends or your home community to watch this together and then discuss what you experience and what you learn. Whether you watch online together and then discuss it via Zoom, or whether you do it in person with safe distancing and masks. My desire would be that you just don't watch it alone. Another thing that we want you to know about is something awesome that happened in our church over the past week. At all 3 of our campuses, our students engaged in a 1-week campaign where they served our local cities and communities in differing ways, whether it was through supporting the adoption foster care initiatives that we're a part of, or the Know Me Now network, or the Sunshine Pantry. Students gathered together and they did daily devotions, but then they also served. And the hope and the desire is that God continues to work in them and let them know that they can serve the neighbor across the street as easily as they can the person around the world. Again, thanks for joining us, and let's now continue to worship together.
Who am I that you would be mindful of me? Who am I that you gave your love so freely? Who is like you, O Lord, that crafted the stars and placed a seal on my name? You are God of creation. You are God through the ages. You are Lord of all, and I am yours. Who am I that you would show mercy on me? Who am I that you gave your life to save me? Who is like you, O Lord? You spoke forth creation and placed a song on my heart. You are God of creation. You are God through the ages. You are Lord of all, and I am yours. You are God of creation. You are God through the ages. You are Lord of all, and I am yours.
Hey everybody, it is so good to be with you today. Thank you for joining us as we wrap up this series called Off the Map. You know, the idea behind this series was that as a church, we just kind of looked up and realized that the world is in a new normal. That everything I thought I knew how to do as a leader, as a husband, as a father, it's just different. You know, in the moment I think I know what normal is, it changes again. And so I feel a little bit like a cartographer, right? These ancient guys that would go around before the world had been mapped. And they would take the maps that they had and they would find where the edge of that map was. They'd go and explore to that spot, and then they had to go off of the map. And they had to go into new territory and learn new ways of doing things. And inevitably you run into different difficulties along the way. And so in this series, we've been looking at the nation of Israel. This ancient nation in the Old Testament, primarily in the books of Exodus and Numbers. And we've been looking at when they went off the map, when there was a territory that they knew, and now they were moving into a brand new territory. And inevitably, there were difficulties along the way. There was the dead end of the Red Sea, where when they got there, they were looking around going, wait, what are we supposed to do? And they realized that what often looks like a setback is really a set up for God's victory. There was a detour, the detour where they were looking around going, wait, we don't know where to go next or what to do. And they realized that a detour, that messiness in the middle, can actually be God giving you provision for growth. And then there's the temptation of the shortcut. This temptation that we all feel, that when we can see where we want to go, that we can take a shorter way around to get there, but in the moment we miss the growth and the development and the character that God is building in us. And today we're looking at the roadblock. The roadblocks in life that we all face. Now here's the thing, some roadblocks, they're tiny. Some roadblocks are really small, and they just sort of slow you down a little bit. You can drive over it and you're gonna feel it, but it's not a big deal. Others, they're a little bit bigger and you've got to stop. You don't want to hit it. It'll mess up whatever you're driving. And then others are huge. They're huge roadblocks that stop you in your tracks, that paralyze you, and you don't know where to go from there. The same is true for the nation of Israel. And so we're gonna pick up their story in just a moment in Numbers chapter 13. But before we get there, let me give you a little recap of where we're at in their story, what's happened to them so far. And so what had happened was they were in this land in Egypt. They were slaves there. And this was brutal for them. It was a bit of a hell on earth. It was not fun. They had no voice, no rights, no privileges. They were beaten and destroyed and kept down for 400 years. They were just hoping to eventually be their own nation. And it's during all of that pain and suffering that they had a glimmer of hope the entire time. Because see, that one of their ancestors, a guy named Abraham, God had come to him and said, Abraham, I'm going to make you into a great nation. You are going to be a nation that's broader than all the stars in the sky. But your people are going to be oppressed. And Abraham, what I want you to know is they will be oppressed, but I will deal with their oppressor. I'm going to bring them out of slavery, and then I will hold accountable those who have been oppressing them. And if that was not enough, he then says, I'm going to lead you into a land flowing with milk and honey, a good land. And so for 400 years, they've been slaves in Egypt, longing and waiting for someone to come and rescue them. And God sends Moses. And Moses comes and delivers them from slavery, which is where then they begin to lead, and they come to their dead end, the Red Sea. They cross the Red Sea, they're on the other side, and they're free. They're free, like they've made it. Except you and I both know, you can be physically free, but still deal with emotional and mental and physical and psychological slavery. You see, once you're set free, especially after 400 years of captivity, when you're free from that, you may be physically free, but the effects of that, they don't just go away in one day or a few months or a few years. They're going to take decades. But at least they are free from their oppressor in Egypt. They begin to walk through this wilderness. And as they go through the wilderness, this off-the-map moment for them, where they've gone from the territory that they knew, albeit a bad one, to the new territory where they don't know what they're doing, they begin to grumble and complain throughout the entire time. And there even comes a moment where they're grumbling against Moses and his leadership, which is so typical, right? Like if you've led anything in your life, if you've ever been a leader, you know, like, hey, never mind the fact, Moses, that you freed us from slavery after 400 years and no one else could. Hey, what have you done for me lately? Right? And it's in this moment that Moses realizes his leadership alone cannot lead all of these people. There's about 2 million of them now. And so what he does is he goes through and he counts them, figures out how many of them there are, and then he separates them out into different family groups. He separates them out into different, what they would call the 12 tribes of Israel. He gives each one of these tribes a different familial name, and then he proceeds to go on and give each one of these tribes a different duty. And that's really what the beginning of Numbers is all about. So then they walk through this wilderness for about 2 years before they come 10 miles from their promised land. 10 miles from the good land that they were wanting to go into with the milk and the honey. And yet they begin to grumble and complain again. Which is at this point that Moses understandably sort of looks at God and he's like, hey, listen, you got to guess how much further? Like we got to do something. And God comes in, he says, here's what I want you to do, Moses. Numbers chapter 13, verse 1. So the Lord spoke to Moses, send out men to investigate the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. You are to send one man from each ancestral tribe and one leader among them. So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of the Lord. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. You see, God comes and he says, hey, these 12 tribes, they each have their leaders that now report back to you, Moses, on what's going on. I want you to bring them, send one representative from each tribe into the land, scout it out. Go see what is there and have them report back so that we can then tell the people what's going on and how to go into the land. They're going on a road trip. When Moses sent them to investigate the land, he told them, go up through the Negev and go up into the hill country and see what the land is like and whether the people who live in it are strong or weak, few or many, whether the land they live in is good or bad, and whether the cities they inhabit are like camps or fortified cities, whether the land is rich or poor, whether or not there are forests in it. And be brave and bring back some of the fruit of the land. Now it was the time of the year of the first ripe grapes. And so he sends them in and he says, hey, evaluate the land. Come back with a full report. And so they went, verse 21. They investigated the land from the wilderness of Zin all the way to Hamath. When they went up through all these different areas that were there, and verse 23 says, they came back to the valley of Eshcol. They cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes. Then they carried it on a staff between 2 men, as well as some of the pomegranates and the figs. That place was called the Eshcol Valley, because the cluster of grapes that the Israelites had cut from there. They returned from investigating the land after 40 days. And so these spies go into this land, and for 40 days, they go all over the place. They're looking at everywhere, and then they come to this valley, and they see grapes that are so huge that it takes 2 men to carry them. But during these 40 days, put yourself in the shoes of the Israelites. They've had 400 years of captivity. 400 years of slavery. Now they've been wandering for 2 more in an arid place that's dry and desert. They're questioning their leadership, and now they have to wait 40 more to find out if anything good is going to be in that land. It's like the person that's been unemployed now for months or maybe years, and you're going, I am just longing and waiting to hear back from the last place that I interviewed. It's the teenager who finally got up the nerve to ask his crush out, but she's taking a while to get back to him. So he's like waiting on pins and needles with excitement and a little bit of trepidation. They're all sitting here going, spies, get back, would you please give us a report? Verse 27 says, hey, Moses, we went to the land where you sent us. It is indeed flowing with milk and honey. And look, this is its fruit. They're like, listen, we went, we saw it. It's exactly what we thought. Check out this fruit. I mean, the Willamette Valley ain't got nothing on these grapes. Like, these are huge. But that was the only good news. 28 says, but the inhabitants are strong and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the land of the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live by the sea and along the banks of the Jordan. You see, they basically go, hey, we've gone everywhere. We've looked at all. We went up into the valleys and the hills. We went out to the coast and the sea. We went into the plains and the valleys. And everywhere we went, people were there, and they are huge and they are strong, and we are afraid to go in. We've hit a roadblock. They go on to even explain what this roadblock is all the more. Caleb speaks out and he says, no, let's go occupy the land. Let's go. But the others, they overwhelm. They say, no, we are not able to go up against these people. They are stronger than we are. Then they presented to the Israelites a discouraging report of the land they had investigated. Hey, the land we passed through to investigate is a land that devours its inhabitants. All the people we saw there are of great stature. We even saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak came from the Nephilim. And we seemed like grasshoppers, both to ourselves and to them. You see, this is the roadblock. They saw these other people groups that were there and the size that they were, and they then go and they tell the people about the roadblock and give them a discouraging report. See, it's probably helpful at this point to maybe define roadblock a little bit. A roadblock is a barrier or a barricade that has been put on your path on the road, most likely by an authority. You see, it's that last part that I think is significant. Because with life all around us, we have roadblocks, especially as we want to go and dream and do new things and go off the map, or as we live in a world that's being written as we experience it, we're going to face roadblocks. The thing is, who's put them there? On whose authority are they there? Here, it was the spies. These 12 spies came back, and they're the ones with the authority to say, here's what's going on. But for you and me, I don't know that it would be the 12 spies necessarily. But we do have families of origin and friends in a past. Right? Maybe for you, you had a friend one time that you were more loyal to them than they were to you. And then they badmouthed you all over the place, and they put up a roadblock for you in that moment. And then you had a coach or a teacher that came and said, hey, you're no good at that subject. You're never going to amount to anything. With that kind of attitude, with that kind of laziness, you're never going to be anything. And immediately a new roadblock was put up for you. Or you had a family of origin. They said, yeah, we don't do that in this family. Oh, we don't associate with them. No, we don't think that way. No, that's no. Your age or your race or your gender or your insecurities are all there because someone spoke into your life early on. And now there are roadblocks that are set up that, although they're small, and you know that you could walk right through them every time you approach them, and that feeling of those things come back. You feel like you're a little kid in the red and yellow Tyke Flintstone car pulling up to it, and the roadblock seems huge. You see, roadblocks are always there, but they were put there by someone. And we have to begin to identify what the roadblocks are in order to be able to move through them and to learn from them. But Israel's not willing to slow down enough at the roadblock to really think about who's putting it there and on whose authority they're listening to. In fact, if we go back to the passage here, they kind of just go crazy. Here's what it says in the beginning of chapter 14. Then all the community raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. All of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, if only we had died in the land of Egypt. If only we had perished in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us into this land only to be killed by the sword, that our wives and our children should be put to plunder? Wouldn't it be better for us to have returned to Egypt? So they said to one another, let's appoint a new leader and return to Egypt. See, for the Israelites, their roadblock had gotten so big so quickly that they said, let's get out of this place. Let's go back to Egypt. That would have been better. They didn't take time to identify the roadblocks they were facing. Now, there's multiple roadblocks that you face in your life and that I face in mine. There's two that I think we see here that are worth mentioning today. The first roadblock that we see Israel wrestle with, that you and I do as well, is what I call the lawn roadblock. Here's what I mean by that. There's two types of lawn people. right? There's the grass is greener lawn person. This is the person that's comparing their lawn to someone else's lawn. And they're looking at their lawn and what's going on, and they're like, well, my lawn is terrible, and I see your lawn, and your lawn is gorgeous and beautiful, and I want that. And so they begin to long to have that. And they eventually, as long as they go, well, you have it and I don't, and you have these opportunities, and you've been able to do things, and look what you have that I don't have. And that just begins to creep in a bitterness and a jealousy into their life. And never mind the fact that as they're playing this comparison game, that as they're doing it, they're really just paying attention to the other person's best attributes and their most negative ones. Or at minimum, the other person's Instagram and online world where they're only presenting their best things while I live in the worst of mine. This is what Israel does when they see the giants and they go, man, they're so much bigger. They're so much bigger than we are. They just begin to compare themselves and go, yeah, the land is better, the grass is greener, but like who are we? No, we can't go take that. But then the reason I call it the lawn analogy is because there's another kind of lawn roadblock, and that's the guy that's like the get off my lawn guy. Right? He's the one that's got his nice, beautiful, pristine lawn all around him, and he's out there watering, taking so much pride in how he got it to grow and how beautiful it was, and no one else can enjoy it. No one else can have the fruit of it because it is his, and he is filled up with pride. Never mind the fact that yeah, he did some work. Okay, he fertilizes and he cuts it and he waters it. But at the end of the day, he doesn't actually cause the grass to grow. The grass grows because that's what grass is designed to do. And so he's a guy that's so welled up with pride that he can't see that he's also playing this comparison game. You see, the beauty, though, of this roadblock is that Jesus Christ breaks through this roadblock. He comes to one group and he goes, listen, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me tell you how much I love you, how much you're adored and cherished. Let me come to you and tell you that you are my son, my daughter. Let me tell you that I view you as an heir to my throne, that I have brought you into my kingdom. I love you so much that I came, I died for you. I gave my life so that you could have life. I conquered sin and death and the resurrection so that you could live with me for all eternity. So don't you get into the comparison game of they have things better than you or you have things worse, because I'm not comparing you to anyone else. I see you and I love you. Let's get rid of that roadblock. And he simultaneously comes to the get off my lawn guy. And he goes, oh, yes, I love you. And everything about your identity is true. But don't you forget that all of the grace and the mercy and the love and the forgiveness that you have, I have given that to you. And so that is not yours to lord over everyone else and to keep people at bay and away and to set up roadblocks so other people can't enjoy that. No, you need to humble yourself and go and serve other people, listen to other people, get to know other people, and begin to live out the life that I have called you to. You see, Jesus can step in and simultaneously remove the comparison roadblock. But there's another roadblock in the text. That's the roadblock that I like to call the I didn't sign up for that roadblock. Like I didn't sign up for that, right? It's this moment where Israel goes like, we're grasshoppers to them. Like they're like, that's hard. Like, no, I didn't sign up for that. Like, let's go back to Egypt. Are you kidding me? Go back to Egypt? Like the place that you were a slave for 400 years, where you had no rights and no privileges? Like, you want to go back to that? No, because see, when that roadblock, when the I didn't sign up for that roadblock comes, what we begin to do is rewrite history and see things as better than they were. They're looking into the promised land, a place with milk and honey, and going, no, that looks hard. I didn't sign up for that. And so they want to quit and go back to Egypt. And man, I can get this because life is hard. And we all know that. We've experienced it to different levels and in different ways, right? But I can have these moments where I'm like, whoa, marriage? No, I signed up for marriage, but I didn't sign up for that. Like I wanted to be a parent, but I didn't sign up for that kind of parenting. Oh, I signed up to be a leader. I didn't sign up to be that kind of leader. Oh, I signed up to be in a home community. I didn't sign up to be in that kind of home community. Oh, I want to go be someone's friend. I didn't sign up to be that kind of friend. Oh, I love church, but I didn't sign up for that kind of church. Oh, I signed up for this, but no, I didn't sign up for that. We all are tempted with this exact same roadblock. But we have to take the posture and the attitude not of the entire nation of Israel, but of two of the spies that came back. These two spies, Joshua and Caleb. Here's what it says that they did. Verse 6. And Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of I don't know his dad's name, two of those who had investigated the land tore their garments. They said to the whole community of the Israelites, "The land we passed through to investigate is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land that is flowing with milk and honey. Only don't rebel against the Lord. Do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. The protection has turned aside from them, but the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." You see, Caleb and Joshua, they're able to get through the "I didn't sign up for that" roadblock because they understand on whose authority they stand. Remember, every roadblock in life was put there by an authority. But if you understand that the roadblocks that have been set up for you, they're not all set up by God. There are some roadblocks that you set up for yourself, or that culture sets up for you, or that your past and your family set up. And if you have a relationship with Jesus, then you're following his leadership and his authority, and you're going, great, the promised land is over there. And if he's told us to go there, that's my dream, that's my desire, and it takes me off the map. I don't care what roadblocks you put in front of me, I am going. Because I'm following the authority of God, not of the 10 other spies. So how do you and I this week begin to look at our life that is off the map and deal with the roadblocks that we inevitably are going to face? I think the first thing that maybe would be helpful is let's begin to identify the roadblocks. Let's begin to take assessment of our life, not get caught up in everything that is going on like the Israelites did, but take a beat and identify the roadblock. I mean, that's really what a roadblock does, right? It slows you down for a second. And so let's slow down. And maybe as you identify the roadblock, maybe you'll say like, yeah, I deal with the roadblock of comparison, or the roadblock of the lawn guy. And maybe I deal with the roadblock of, hey, that's just not what I signed up for. Like that's too hard for me. But maybe it's the roadblock of I'm fear of failure. Or maybe it's the roadblock of fear of success. Like there are so many different roadblocks that we face. So let's just begin to take an honest assessment and say there are things and dreams and desires that God has put in me, whether it's a relationship with others, relationship with my family, or a relationship with him. There is something holding you back. Identify it, call it out. But then after you identify it, evaluate who put it there. Evaluate why it's there, but because it may be that you can look at it and you go, yeah, I got this roadblock. I know exactly why this is here. This was a third grade teacher that said something to me, and I am a 35-year-old man. Why am I holding on to that? And you can take it and get rid of it and begin to move on. But it may also be that as you evaluate who put it there, because you're assessing the authority that they have in your life. I don't want to be so naive to think that it isn't God that put it there. You see, what I love in this story with Caleb and Joshua is that as they break through the roadblock, they don't act like it doesn't exist. They evaluate that it is there, but then they identify who put it there. And they don't pretend that it's not there and just close their eyes. They go, no, there's giants there. We see that. But we don't think they're a roadblock that God can't help us through. See, it may be that there's a roadblock or two in something that you're wanting to do in your life, and God has put it there to slow you down, to make you pause and reflect and stop, to commune with him more and to get into a deeper relationship with him so that you can then move forward with him, because the roadblock may be something that you need to move through, but you can't do it on your own. You need him to help you. Which is why the third thing I would say is who are you following? Who are the voices and the authorities in your life? Because the authorities are the ones that can put up the roadblock or take away the roadblock. They're the ones that can make it seem small or make it seem huge, and they're the ones going to walk with you through it. And so if you're following Jesus, are you listening to his voice and trusting him to move you through the roadblock? That is what Caleb and Joshua were doing. They were listening to the voice of God more than their internal fears and the real roadblocks that they saw. And that if we would follow Jesus, then he will go with us into those roadblocks. And he will teach us as we go. This is actually something that's picked up on in the New Testament. There's this moment in the New Testament where Paul is writing to the church. Now here's what's so cool to me about this. The church is being established and Paul is writing to them. They're off the map. Like they are made up of Jews, right? Who for the past thousands of years have been holding on to promises of God, and they're coming out of that and into what is going to eventually be called Christianity. Then you've got the Greco-Roman world, who has all of their ways of leading and thinking and intellect, and the gospel is breaking through. And now these two groups of people are coming together who would normally never associate, and now they're doing church together, and they have to stop and go, whoa, how do we do it? Like, how do we lead? Now we've got slaves and free and men and women and Romans and Jews, and how do we do this? And here's what Paul says. He says, listen, I know that there's all these roadblocks that are set up, but if you are in Christ Jesus, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ. And if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's descendants, heirs according to the promise. He goes, yeah, that same promise that the Israelites were holding on to for 400 years of slavery, the same promise that brought them out, the same promise that would have delivered them into the promised land had they only trusted God, that same promise is the promise that you and I have, that Jesus has come and He loves you and He cares for you, and so hold on to that. Let Him lead you. Because at the end of the day, God is the great cartographer. God is the one that not only drew the map, but He drew and created the entire world that the map is based on. And so although in this world right now for me, it feels like I am off the map, when I'm following God, I am exactly on the map where I'm supposed to be.